Nicole Lebrasseur, a dedicated legal researcher with over 15 years of experience, proudly serves as the founder and CEO of the Canadian Peoples Union NFP. Alongside her on the board of directors are Denis Lamoth, CFO, and Barb Garlow, a respected director and member of the Six Nations. Together, they stand united in their mission at the CPU, an organization unlike any other, representing informed Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples from coast to coast. The CPU's goal is simple yet profound: to challenge the status quo and advocate for our collective civil and political rights reclamation, a legacy eroded by political oversight and global pressures. Today, we at the CPU seek to ignite a spark of change, progress, and a reimagined democracy. Our mission is to illuminate the role of citizens within our political system, expose the international principles Canada has neglected, and introduce a viable solution for reform. The core of our critique lies in the partocracy system, a 19th century political framework where power resides with parties over citizens. This system has failed to evolve with societal needs, overshadowing citizens' voices with party interests. Additionally, despite the passage into the 21st century, Canada's status as an undecolonized constitutional monarchy starkly contrasts with the principles of a true democracy, where citizens should be collective sovereigns and actively participate in decision-making processes. We propose a transformative shift towards true democracy, prioritizing the collective voice and ensuring adherence to national and international human rights laws, a sector alarmingly ignored by our current leaders. Canada must fulfill its commitments to the conventions, treaties, statutes, and the International Bill of Rights, including the Syracuse and Johannesburg Principles. These frameworks, demanding that restrictions on freedoms be lawful, necessary, proportionate, and non-discriminatory, are foundational yet overlooked in our domestic policies, leading to confusion, unnecessary spending, and detrimental health outcomes, to name a few. The disparity between our international promises and domestic practices calls for immediate action. As Canadians, we must bridge this gap for legal compliance and to uphold democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. The CPU stands ready to lead this charge, advocating for Canada to become a global beacon of justice and human dignity. At this crossroads, we demand the opportunity to redefine governance to truly serve the people. The Powershift to Freedom project represents a crucial step towards embedding our collective rights firmly within our Constitution, shifting political power back to citizens and Indigenous peoples. This shift is not just a dream, it's a necessity, and we need your passion, voice, and commitment to democracy to make it happen. Your engagement is vital. Join us by endorsing the Convention of Consent, a living document that becomes legally binding with the support of 51% of citizens in 7 provinces. This convention is a step towards a brighter, more democratic future where past injustices are lessons learned, not repeated. Citizens 15 years old and over can sign at the cpu.ca. Together, we can usher in a new era of governance where corruption and unaccountability are relics of the past and our rights are protected and cherished. Let's make this vision a reality.
Well, hello and welcome back, everybody. And today is a message for our parliamentarians. And I'm hoping that everybody's going to share this video because it's going to be very, very important. Because given what's transpired in the last 4 years or even in the last month and what has been happening at Parliament, and all the discoveries they've been making in regards to a lot of mismanagement by this Canadian government, and the fact that parliamentarians are all guilty of letting this happen, including the senators, the governor general, and everyone involved within our levels of governance. And this also includes every level of federal legislatures, the provincial legislatures, and our municipalities. This includes the mayors and councillors, including band councils across Canada. So everybody here is touched, and it also includes those who are inside of our governance under public-private partnerships. So please listen carefully and make sure that you understand everything. If you don't understand everything that's been going on, please go to the cpu.ca, and all of the documents will be placed there, as well as to our members. It's in our community. So you'll be able to access those documents. Today will not be in French. It's going to be in English only. Alors, aujourd'hui, ça va être seulement en anglais, et on reviendra plus tard, pas aujourd'hui, là, mais la semaine prochaine avec la version française, avec une traduction, parce que ça, c'est un document qu'il faut qu'il y aille aux parlementaires, puis je ne peux pas risquer de traduire vite fait. Alors, pour faire certain là, que tout est bien fait. So, anyways, I'll get on with this. So I'll share the screen with you. And, okay, so this is it. Now, March 28th, 2024, the object of this is governance and justice in Canada. No immunity for Canadian officials and civil servants under breach of superior responsibility. And this means that under breach of superior responsibility, it includes everybody who is at one level or the other of governance. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, politicians, and all those within the Crown of Canada and Canadian governance, which also includes the heads of public and private partnerships. I'm Nicole Lebrasseur, a legal researcher with over 15 years of experience, and prior to that, pharmaceutical market research. And I proudly serve as the founder and CEO of the Canadian Peoples Union, not-for-profit, and in brackets, the CPU. So when we address the CPU, we mean the Canadian Peoples Union. So the CPU, an organization unlike any other, represents informed Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples from coast to coast. Our goal is simple yet profound: to challenge the status quo and advocate for our collective civil and political rights, reclamation, a legacy eroded by political and judicial oversight, global pressures, and policy interference. Right now, I will be addressing concerned citizens and Indigenous nations. So today I address you not just to speak, but to ignite a spark of change, progress, and reimagined democracy. The integrity of Canada's constitutional framework and government operations has recently attracted the citizens' concerns. At the core of these concerns are allegations of governance negligence and breaches of responsibility that have undermined public trust and Canadian leadership and the administration of justice. The core of our critique begins with the partocracy system, a 19th century political framework where power resides within parties over citizens. This system has failed to evolve with societal needs, overshadowing citizens' voices with party interests. Additionally, despite the passage into the 21st century, Canada's status as an undecolonized constitutional monarchy starkly contrasts with the principles of true democracy, where citizens should be collective sovereign head of state and actively participate in decision-making processes. As long as we have the imperial crown as head of state, we will never be truly and fundamentally decolonized. Even with a de jure government, the people remain subjects of the crown. The partocracy system allows for degrading the Canadian governance system in favor of outside interests. For example, there are ethical dilemmas posed by figures such as Chrystia Freeland, who serves on the World Economic Forum's Board of Trustees. This group features other notable figures like Justin Trudeau, who is identified as a global young leader. Klaus Schwab, the forum's founder, has stated that these leaders were selected to influence and align government policies more closely with the objectives of the World Economic Forum, interference in policy making. This significant assertion warrants thorough examination. Questions arise regarding their legal accountability for policies and actions negatively impacting Canada and its people. I consider this treason. Citizens are powerless against such infiltration of their governance, and the CPU's mission to advocate for collective national, civil, and political rights has never been more urgent. In disrespect of the rule of law, at the CPU, we have discovered that high-ranking officials and various governmental bodies could face severe accusations of constitutional and administrative financial misfeasance committed against Canadians and Indigenous peoples. There are also pending international charges of aiding and abetting genocide, crimes against humanity, and apartheid against Palestinians peoples initiated by countries at the International Court of Justice. Subverting the rule of law with a rule by law approach, alongside disregard for the International Bill of Rights and non-derogatable humanitarian laws during emergencies and wars or other conflicts, has significantly compromised the integrity of Canada's governance. This breach indicates the Canadian Imperial Crown, federal and provincial legislatures, municipal governments, the Governor-General, the Privy Council, Health Canada, provincial public health agencies, justice departments, bar associations, and the judiciary, casting a shadow over their roles under the auspices of His Majesty and Right of Canada and the provinces as the constitutional head of state. A return to principled governance guided by the rule of law and a genuine human rights commitment is imperative. This includes rectifying the procedural lapses in legislation and policy making, as demonstrated by recent controversies over legislative processes and the disbursement of funds. A most recent example of March 19, 2024, is Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland asking senators to pass a budget bill without reading it. Senate managers sought approval to spend another $8.9 billion without disclosing the legal text of the bill. This was from the Blacklock's reporting of the March 19th. Furthermore, Senator Denise Batters from Saskatchewan declared that this is not the first time this sort of thing has happened. Cabinet subsequently used the bills to grant itself authority to borrow without parliamentary scrutiny a total of $350 billion by March 31st, 2020. $350 billion by March 31st, 2020. The sum was greater than Parliament spent in the Second World War. It's time for a transformative shift towards genuine democracy by the enforcement of full rights of the Canadian and Indigenous peoples. International legal frameworks demanding that restrictions on freedoms be lawful, necessary, proportionate, and non-discriminatory are fundamental yet overlooked in our domestic policies, leading to confusion and detrimental health outcomes, mismanagement, unnecessary spending, and corruption, to name a few. Therefore, we are pressing for adherence to our binding national and international Bill of Human Rights laws, a sector alarmingly ignored by our current leaders. An example of such disregard for our non-derogable rights are the emergency measures undertaken by the federal government, the provinces, municipalities, the judiciary, and public health during the pandemic. Every level of Canadian governance, from band councils to municipal mayors and councillors, bears a fiduciary duty to uphold the International Bill of Human Rights for Canadians and Indigenous peoples. 3 fundamental treaties of the International Bill of Rights and Guidelines are automatically embedded into our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This integration stands firm regardless of specific national, provincial, or municipal laws. Ensuring these rights are inherently protected, that non-derogable rights are upheld even in emergencies, war, or peace times. Along with these treaties, the Syracuse and Johannesburg Principles are specific guidelines created to be honored, ensuring that governments do not take overreaching powers over the people, as we have witnessed these last 4 years and beyond. The International Bill of Human Rights is a self-executing, just Cogans and Orga Orms customary international law, which includes the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, including its 2 optional protocols. Importantly, Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights renders bills like Bill C-11 and Bill C-63 unconstitutional. What does that say to our Minister of Justice's competence? Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to uphold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas throughout any media and regardless of frontiers. And the UN has stated this includes online. Our rights are protected online. Now, the legal guides are the Syracuse Principles on the limitation and derogation provisions in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It was created because it has long been observed by the American Association for the International Commission of Jurists, AAICJ, that one of the main instruments employed by governments to repress and deny the fundamental rights and freedoms of peoples has been the illegal and unwarranted declaration of martial law or a state of emergency, such as declared in Quebec. Very often, these measures are taken under the pretext of the existence of a public emergency which threatens the life of the nation or threats to its national security. The abuse of applicable provisions allowing governments to limit and derogate from certain rights contained in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights has resulted in the need for a closer examination of the conditions and grounds for permissible limitations and derogations in order to achieve an effective implementation of the rule of law. The United Nations General Assembly has frequently emphasized the importance of a uniform interpretation of limitations on rights enunciated in the covenant. And then number 2, we have the Johannesburg Principles. Canada's participation in international conflicts. Now, Canadian government's responsibilities extend beyond our national borders, encompassing a global duty towards international communities, notably the Palestinian and Israeli peoples. Canadian government, military equipment, assistance, and contributions to the government of Israel have inadvertently placed both Jewish and Palestinian populations worldwide at risk. Similarly, involving Canada in the conflicts between Jews and Muslims, Ukrainians and Russians, among others, compromises not just those directly affected, but also the personal safety of our people, but also the economic stability of Canada itself. Our cities and universities are in chaos. To all parliamentarians, this is a peaceful and legal resolution. There is a peaceful and legal resolution in revitalizing Canada. Given the present state of Canada, its failed management and disrespect for the people's rights, we demand that our full rights be lawfully recognized and given the opportunity to redefine governance that truly serve the people. Therefore, parliamentarians, legal experts, and citizens must collaborate to address these challenges through legal avenues, public discourse, and active, immediate participation in governance reform. The CPU's Powershift to Freedom project represents a crucial step towards embedding our collective rights firmly within our Constitution, shifting political power back to the Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples. This shift is not just a dream. It's a necessity that we need, and we need our passion, your passion, voice, and commitment for true democracy to make it happen. Our questions to all parliamentarians: why wait until the elections in 2025 to enforce the change Canadians want and need immediately? You all have access to e-petitions, so why not use the e-petition site to immediately get the Canadian people's input on issues like non-confidence, digital ID, facial recognition, etc. Number 2, which of you in Parliament will take a legal stand against the corruption we are seeing and that you are fully aware of? When will parliamentarians file criminal charges for mismanagement of funds by the executive government? Your engagement is vital. At the Canadian Peoples Union, we've delved deeply into our rights and the historical shifts in Canada's governance, particularly the repatriation of our Constitution and the rights seemingly usurped by successive governments. In response, we've crafted a legally binding living contract named the Indigenous and Civil Unified Sovereign Enactment, Convention of Consent. This pioneering document invites all Canadians and Indigenous peoples aged 15 and older to affirm their commitment to our collective civil and political rights, rights to self-determination and decolonization that have been overlooked since 1982. This significant pledge was celebrated by signatures collected prior and at a landmark 3-day gathering on Parliament Hill from July 30th to August 1st, 2022. I would appreciate holding a meeting with the Senate's Human Rights Committee and parliamentarians to discuss the respect of our collective civil and political rights. Together, we could cover the following points. 1, examine the International Bill of Rights, focusing on decolonization and civil and political rights, rights undermined since 1982 by actions of the premiers and Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau. 2, demand recognition of our legitimate status as co-owners and shareholders of the Crown of Canada. We call on Parliament to formally acknowledge Canadians as the rightful shareholders and co-owners of Canada and its resources, thereby rectifying rights that have been wrongfully diminished since 1982. This acknowledgement is essential for reinstating authentic, consensual governance, and this includes the Indigenous nations. 3, we demand constitutional reform in the system of governance, shifting decision-making power from Parliament and the executive to the collective people, aligning with international laws that empower citizens to select their governance model. This should be left to the people and not politicians. We should be deciding what type of system we want, whether it representative democracy, proportional representation, or a true democracy by the people. It is up to us to decide, not parliamentarians. And 4, finally, cut all ties to the imperial crown and neo-colonialism by finally removing His Majesty King Charles as head of state, by lawfully placing Canadians and Indigenous peoples in partnership to collectively serve as the head of state, yielding final decision-making authority with veto rights on governance decisions that directly impact us. Our freedom from colonialism and neo-colonialism is our prerogative power. The peoples of every independent country still tied to colonialism were given that right in 1960, of which Canadian governments have purposely hidden from Canadians and Indigenous peoples. So even in independent countries, the international law states that we were allowed to self-govern and to choose our type of system. The peoples of every independent country still tied to colonialism were given that right in 1960, of which Canadian governments have purposely hidden from Canadians and Indigenous peoples. So here I will have to add countries. Now, number 5, question the necessity of political parties, advocating for representatives to be chosen based on expertise rather than allegiance to party directives, ensuring accurate representation of the people's will. And number 6, critique the current form of representative democracy in Canada as serving parliamentary party interests over true democratic principles, leading to confusion and disillusionment among the populace. So all of this should be in the hands of the people, with having veto power over our government. And that has been included in law since 1960 and neglected by Canada up to today. So I look forward to your positive reply. Nicole Lebrasseur, the Canadian Peoples Union, the CPU.ca. And this will be sent to every parliamentarian with a few changes, with just adding countries. And I hope that everybody will be sending them this video, because this video is important for everybody at every municipal level, from the municipal levels all the way up to the federal government, need to understand what has been done, because every person in Canada, every Canadian citizen and Indigenous person has the right to freedom. And the only difference between freedom and dictatorship is who gets to make the decisions at the end of the day, the government or the people. And nowhere in law does it say that the people can't be making these decisions. International law dictates that, yes, all Canadians and Indigenous peoples have the right to input all of the ideas that they want, or participate in any section that they want, or address any issue that we want in Canada. And we do not need the permission of the Canadian government at any levels or the judiciary to proceed with changing our system of governance, placing the people in power over the crown. I'll leave you with this. You can reach me at Nicole at the Powershift.ca or Nicole at the CPU.ca. And you can call us at 226-777-5580 and leave a message. Thank you. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And please share this video. It's imperative that everybody understands the laws within Canada, the laws that we have been denied, and the subversion of laws that has happened in this country over time. So we are entering a holiday weekend. Please enjoy yourselves, embrace your families, and look forward to a future where we, the people, have our rights recognized and honored by our politicians. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, one more thing.
Dive into 2024 with the CPU's dynamic campaign, set to energize Quebec and Ontario by reaching 75,000 homes with our empowering message. Every contribution you make is pivotal, driving this ambitious initiative forward and ensuring our information lands directly in communities via Canada Post. We extend special thanks to our dedicated CPU members, whose grassroots efforts amplify our reach. This campaign is your gateway to being part of a significant movement for change. Whether you choose to donate or volunteer, your participation is key to our success. Join us in making 2024 a victorious year for collective freedom and community action with the CPU.